Hi, everybody. Welcome to the empathy training. What I have been feeling as I have each and every one of you enter the room, and I like to play a little music that represent the theme of the message of each time. And I don't start right away at 10 o'clock or whatever the time that I invite people to, because I want people to settle in to begin tapping into their presence. There's a layer of the experience, and underneath that, there's a layer of the presence. And it's important for all of us to drop ourselves into the realm and the state of the presence in order to actually receive the information and to begin practicing deeper into realizing. And let me just kind of share with everybody um, the experience that I have been having, especially, in a weekly calls that we do in self-realization and soulpreneur, of course, but more than that, when we do that event, because the event like this that I've been doing once a month has a little like a theme to it and the ritualization to it. But when I see people, coming in because I'm not doing the passcode version, but I'm letting people in one by one, yeah, um, I'm really loving it. I feel like I'm allowing each soul to enter into this space. It's like for me, it gives me this sort of idea of, because I was a dancer and I was teaching dance and I was uh, developing talent, right? As dancer, right? I was doing choreography and I was teaching dance in school, in a dance studios, and it was all about developing talent, right? And the format has changed from dance to this spiritual work, the soul purpose work that we're doing. But whenever each and every one of you enter, I feel like I see everyone as a hero of your own journey, and something emotional happens inside of me, and I feel like I want to just keep bringing people in. But the goal of this training, everybody, that we do is to, first of all, for you to feel so, for you to feel that you're an artist of the soul, because you are, and then for you to feel that you're here to do something significant, because many people tends to think that there are a lot of people who can do that, but they don't apply that belief in them. And the clear message that I want to convey this time around is that each and every one of us is an artist of the soul. And you are here to cultivate that gift using the stories that you have lived, and then embracing the past to choose who you want to be now, to begin creating the future. Now, tomorrow I'm going to be talking more about a different way of living lifestyle, um, awaken lifestyle. Awaken lifestyle, begin looking at past, present, future completely differently. We're going to be talking a lot about, especially tomorrow, how to, instead of looking at the timeline using the rational and logical mind, how to actually begin living, bridging that gap between the spiritual dimension using the psycho-emotional tools that we have to be able to collapse the event in this physical realm. So that's an intuitive way of living. For me, that's an awakened lifestyle. And we're going to be talking a lot about what it means to begin developing a view. I call this essence view. If there's one thing that I would love for everybody to take home this weekend, today, tomorrow, is to understand and begin practicing what it means to cultivate the essence view. So we're going to be talking a lot about essence versus personality. We're going to be talking a lot about how to see yourself using the physical eyes, but also your imagination. We're going to be talking a lot about I was actually taking a shower this morning, and many of you know I don't really prepare what to talk about in this event, but I do sit down and begin writing down what I don't want to miss talking about, because there are a lot of things that I want to share with people. Like the last almost 3 decades of the spiritual path that I have walked, I'm condensing in 2 days, 75 minutes, right? So there are a lot of things that I can talk about, but then I want to spotlight and focus, but I actually might talk about chakra because I started to feel kind of called to talk about. And then to talk about not from the perspective of understanding what chakras are, but more from the perspective of how that can be applied, right, into the way that we're living. Um, some of the goals that I have today, tomorrow, is for all of us to understand what system thinking is. System thinking is a holistic view of looking at the world that I was trained in school. And then to really begin changing the definition of success. When we hear success, we probably think of achievement, we think of some sort of attainment, which is absolutely fine, but then how to actually integrate the inner fulfillment and outer attainment, those two needs to be integrated and balanced. We're gonna talk a lot about it. And often what I usually do and implement is that I kind of feel out the room and I navigate, because I have cultivated a capacity to lead with my knowing, and everything that I do is intuitive led. Most of the thing is not planned. So the way that I want to begin, everybody, because I want everybody to participate, is I'm going to share the screen, and everybody here is already in the school group. Just a little logistic, yeah. I usually, when we do the event on day one, I usually pin post this day one, so you see it right away. If you click here, you will see some comments around asking everybody to share your number one takeaway and a realization. Yeah, you can do that later, right? And there's one question that I proposing that I would love for everybody to answer. Um, the reason that I do this way is because I don't want to just kind of speak to you and you receive the information. One of the things that I talk to a lot is the information is it's not what we need, right? Information is everywhere. And let's say for instance, we are here for a specific reason, right? You are guided here for a reason, but also there is inside of you that you have some desire. Otherwise, if you didn't have a desire, you wouldn't be here, because desire is the first place that we begin, that moves us, right? So it's important for you and all of us to anchor what the intention of being here is, and also what is it that you desire in your life, right? Now, desire is a feeling that we experience in our heart level that comes from the urge of the soul, and the soul is forever seeking a fuller expression. Now, expression can be experienced only when we have the mind and the body. This physical realm is the realm of expression and experience. The spiritual realm is the realm of the absolute. There's no experience. Yeah. So the urge of the soul that you came here, you chose your parents, and you came here, the soul that is you came here at this time in history, and you're being surrounded by people, you're encountering opportunities, possibilities, and different people that you are meant to encounter, so that you can begin constructing the stories that you have been creating, and to understand that story, to be able to embrace that and turn that into a gift, and to begin sharing your gift to the world. We're going to be talking a lot about the law of circulation and giving and receiving. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the dilemmas that people experience between the spiritual interest, and how to integrate that into the physical realm. Because for most people, those are not fully integrated, which is the reason that many people still struggle in life and have some sort of suffering, right? The integration journey is what we want to actually begin practicing, right? We don't need to really practice transcending. We don't need to try to do anything with the past to heal. Those things will inevitably happen when you begin implementing and demonstrating integration. And then we'll talk more about what it means. So here, as you begin expressing yourself, implementing stuff to interact in the group, you will actually begin seeing the difference in your life. And today and tomorrow, I actually have somebody who I'll be interviewing. And today I'll be interviewing Pia, but Pia can tell you what kind of shift she has experienced in her life by actually going full in to express herself in the group. And I want everybody to use this Soul Purpose group as a place to practice and then self-reflect what happens inside of you, and to be able to utilize the tools and awareness that you are becoming aware of in your day-to-day life. So I mentioned a little bit about earlier, this is not about gathering information, right? I might have a hidden wisdom that actually might completely change the way that the entanglement of your life is happening to begin aligning. But then the real work happens when we take this information and begin self-reflecting your thought pattern, your feeling pattern, your belief pattern, and your entire energetics, and then begin actually applying it in your life. Yeah. So I'm going to come back to this. And then just a little, if you're new to, what we do here, if you go under the classroom, I put this empathy training classroom at the beginning. And here, this is an intro video. And then once the session is over, I'll be uploading the recording here, and you will have an access day one, day two, right? And I will keep this here, the classroom in school group, until the end of this month. I don't usually keep recording forever, but I give timelines so people can actually dive in, right? If I tell everybody that you have 30 days to clean your room, you will probably spend 30 days to clean your room. So I am asking everybody to spend only the next 7 days to clean up and integrate your inner world so you can actually focus. Now, here, everybody, if you don't have the school open, if you could please open the school, because we're going to be doing something together. Look, Pierre is already typing, right? So what I would like to ask everybody is to start here. What is one thing that you are deeply grateful for right now? So I want you to actually express the gratitude. What is it and what it means for you right now as we speak? Here you go. Tom is already done, right? So what is it that you're feeling grateful for? And I want you to actually begin typing right now. And as you type, let me explain my intention behind asking this question, right? Now, sharing gratitude can be very basic and typical, right? But let me take everybody a little bit deeper. Being grateful for and thanking something is the ultimate prayer. Yeah, an ultimate prayer. Because when we begin understanding that God lives within us, yeah, your understanding of God, whatever that God is, right? The infinite universal intelligence lives within us and flow through us, and we can express as us, as that, yeah. So every single expression, the spoken words that we use, the act that we take, not take, can express God through us or limit the possibility of the God self energy to express through us based on the word choice and the energy that we choose to entertain. Yeah. And when we understand that there's no the time exists, past, present, future, yeah. But when we begin living from the spiritual dimension, we actually begin focusing only on the now and everything that we desire in our life. Yeah, what are the things that we desire? Maybe it's a different kind of health, different kind of relationship, different kind of money flow, different kind of business situation, different kind of peace of mind. All those things that we desire, the potentiality of the fulfillment of them already exists in the spiritual plane. Yeah, that is why we desire it. So everything, each and every single thing that we desire in this physical world is already being created as a potentiality in the spiritual plane. So the things that we do, whatever that you're focusing on, right? We have been focusing on the soul-led entrepreneur, soulpreneur things in this group. So many people who are joining have the business, right? Now, if you have a business or if you have an arts that you're doing, you have a desire to grow, right? It's okay to desire to grow because that's the urge of the soul seeking expression. Yeah. It's gonna be a little tricky if we get attached to it, right? But in these 2 days, I'm gonna share with you one of the most powerful things that I have learned over the years to not to get attached and to enjoy creating it because that is the key. Yeah. Um, and then in order to explain that, I need to kind of give you a little bit more background. But then to seeking fuller expansion, more reaching different people, or to be able to express yourself in a way that you can touch and impact others are so good, right? Now, whatever that vision that you have that fulfills your desire already exists as a potentiality in a spiritual plane. That is why you desire it, right? Why do you desire something that I do not? Why some people desire something and others desire something else? Because we are a differentiation of the spirit and we are here to fulfill that desire, to complete, to go back to that completion, right? So we often talk about in the spiritual plane, okay, we're already complete, we are perfect, right? But then the mind that focuses on the lack start thinking, well, I would like to think so, but I could be better here. I could be better here, right? There is an opinion about it, yeah. But in the spiritual plane, you cannot not be perfect or complete because that's all there is. And what we came here to do is to be exposed to all the stories from surrounding. Yeah. Because when we came here as an infant, embryo to infant to child, up to the age of 4 and then up to the age of 7, we get programmed. Yeah. We get programmed by surrounding. And uh, most parents don't know that every single act that they're making is creating information to the children. So we get absorbed to all the stories, right? The stories include limitation, what we believe to be true in our life. Yeah. And then when we get to adult, the conscious mind start forming and that programming start acting to begin expressing, not expressing, limiting ourselves, trying to do something, and it shows up as a pattern in life, pattern of thoughts, pattern of belief, pattern of behavior. In that process, everybody, this is one of the things that I love speaking about, is a path to begin forgetting who we essentially are. Yeah. And I call this divine blueprint. Um, I think I did a session 2 years ago, The Art of Becoming, and that's when I introduce what is yang reacting to some. I'm so grateful for the ability to be able to trust in the unseen. Great. Amazing. We're going to talk about faith and unseen. So the divine blueprint is this path of forgetting who we are. Yeah. Temporarily living the story of the wound and limitation, but we all have gone through that beautifully for a reason, because you can only begin walking the path of remembering who we truly are by demonstrating the forgetting. Yeah. So this path that we are given, when we really understand the journey of the soul's journey is the topic theme of today, is perfectly orchestrated by the rhythm of the universe. And one of the other goals that I have is for all of us to understand that whatever that we speak, whatever that we do, we don't do, is a part of life expressing itself. Yeah, life expressing itself. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that to give us a context, right? Give us a context. Okay, great. And then I would highly suggest everybody to sort of begin interacting when you begin initiating that interaction during, before, or after the session, day one, day two. Uh, Something is going to be born, right? If you don't initiate anything, nothing will be born. And I understand that sometimes people want to kind of step back a little bit and observe. If you're working on the inside by observing, it's good. But when you start interacting, the magic is going to happen. So feel free to use this post in the comment section to kind of share anything that you want to anchor or realize as I move along today and tomorrow. I would love for everybody to actually avoid using the chat portion of the Zoom chat box because people can comment there, but people who are watching the recording cannot see that. So I want everybody who come later to watch the recording to be able to participate into your unfoldment of the expression. Okay, enough said. Great. Thank you for those for commenting. So every single time when I do this event, I come up with a different title. And if you listen very carefully, I'm talking about exactly the same thing. Yeah, I'm talking exactly about the same thing and speaking from a different angle. And in the same thing that I'm talking about, I talk about it because I have come to realize that this is the most important thing that we can work on and in practice. And that is the integration of the essence and the personality. Yeah. So who we are is spiritual being and we're having a physical experience. So what that means is that the body that you see in front of you, the bodies that you see in the screen is not who we are. It's what we have. The mind that we are able to think is not who we are. It's something that we have. Yeah. It is my body, my mind, your mind, our bodies, and our mind. Yeah. Now, you might have heard this, me saying or somebody saying, and the work and the practice that needs to happen for all of us is to be able to actually begin living it instead of knowing about it. Yeah. That is called embodiment, and that is called the awareness of self-definition. Yeah. Every time when we say something or when we choose to see from a certain perspective, we are self-defining in that very moment who we are being. Yeah. So that is why I'm not a big fan of trying to heal the past trauma. Because if you try to heal the past trauma, you are choosing to see yourself that somebody who has a past trauma, and the object you that is being seen by your subject you, the one that's seen, is going to reconfirm who you're being every single moment. Yeah. That doesn't mean that the inner child work or shadow work don't work. They do at a certain extent. But at some point, we want to identify who is that we are wanting to be and who is the version of us that we are here to live that allows the infinite power to flow to us. We are all, this is something that Bob often said. And by the way, whenever I say Bob or Neil, they're not my neighbors. Neil is Neil Donald Walsh, who was my first teacher, spiritual teacher, Conversation with God, author of Conversation with God. Bob is Bob Proctor, who was in the movie, The Secret. Yeah. They have been my mentors. Yeah. Now, this is something that Bob often said, right? We are all the same. What that means is that the one power source that we can access, that the human mind can access, is the same. Now, but we are different. We have a unique differentiation in a way that we are here to express, right? There are people who are doing acting, there are people who are doing energy work, there are people who are doing different things, right? There are people who do something that I am not called to do, right? So the 8 billion people, or I don't actually know how many people exist in the world, is a human differentiation. But the purpose and what we are here to do, as far as the underlying mission, is all the same. The vehicle through which we are here to express and experience this physical life can be different, right? So having that information in mind, what we want to really contemplate is, okay, the number one first practice, I'm going to give different practices today, right? Number one practice is to be able to inquire and examine moment to moment, am I acting from the idea that I'm a spiritual being, or am I falling into this trap of acting as if I am a physical being? Many people want to believe that we're a spiritual being having a physical experience. Most people end up living as if they believe that they're physical being and wanting to have a spiritual experience. Yeah. So that includes the thoughts that we choose. That includes how we actually see any contrast, right? Contrast is what appears to be negative. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that as well. Um, Negativity is a perception. Everything just is in this physical world. Only thinking make it what it means for us. That was not me. That was Shakespeare. That was not Neil. That was not Bob. That was said by Shakespeare, right? Everything just is, only thinking make it. So that so is the meaning that we attach. So when we say that, oh, this happened, this is so bad, nothing is bad. We just chose to see so. Yeah. So we want to monitor the spoken words, right? The spoken words internally, which we call inner narrative, internal narrative. Yeah. And then what we say in the outer world, right? So that means that I am actually asking everybody, if your desire is to spiritually awaken, because the title of this session is empathy. I haven't talked about what empathy means for me just yet, but it's the path to awakening, right? Um, Tomorrow, I want to kind of entertain this idea with everybody. What does it mean to actually be awakened, right? I think it's good to solidify that, because things like realization or awakening or enlightenment, people use and maybe overuse, but when that is being fulfilled, that awakened self, awakened life, what does awakened life look like, right? And the identifying that enables us to actually anchor into that energy to be able to begin unfolding that more. So we are a spiritual being living in this physical body, and this space-time reality, which is the physical world, is the realm that we're here to express and experience. So in the realm of the spirit, there's no experience and there's no expression. So then what we are here to do is to use the mind and the body. I call that fourth dimensional psycho-emotional plane and a three-dimensional physical plane. We are here to express an experience. Yeah. And you only know what that version of you that you're here to become. I don't want to scare anybody by saying what I'm going to tell you. Last weekend, I had a near-death experience. Yeah. And when you have that, last weekend, it's not like I'm not talking about 5 years ago. Last weekend, which is less like 5 days ago. Yeah. And I'm gonna talk a little bit. Just the reason I wanted to talk about that is because in that I knew exactly where I was. Yeah. I knew that let me kind of share my experience. You know, when the TV is not functioning, I don't have TV, but when the TV is not functioning, it creates like a little wave and it's a and then sort of like a start fading off, right? That was my experience, right? And I knew in that moment that if I, for some reason, there was a little like a left right thing that was going on. If I continue to let myself move to the right, I will be on the other side. Yeah. If I, but I was kind of moving left, right, right, left, and that sort of TB, broken TB sensation was happening in my consciousness. And in that moment, I knew exactly where I was, and I saw different people, right? And if I let myself move over to the right, I knew where I was going. Yeah. And in that moment, this might sound funny. I was able to say, I'm staying, right? I'm still staying. And then it took me back to the left. Yeah. So that was my a little near-death experience story. But the reason that I wanted to talk about that is because in that very moment, I was in a deep knowing. I knew where I was. I knew why I met all these people to be able to sort of go through the lesson that I was meant to be able to create my experience. Yeah. And if you ask me, how did you know? The answer is because I knew, right? There's no reason, or I cannot articulate why I knew it. I just knew it. Yeah. Now, I wanted to share this near death experience thing, not for the sake of sharing that I went through that, but for the sake of all of us understanding what that knowing feels like, right? Now, if you go up to the rational mind and begin thinking, how does that happen? How do you know that you know, right? That's sort of like on the surface base. If you drop a little bit deeper into the knowing, there's no room for doubt, and you know that you know. Yeah. Now, and then let me tell you, I thought that Shannon came in, but I don't see Shannon anymore. Shannon has done ayahuasca. I have never done ayahuasca. I have done different psychedelic plant medicine stuff, right? And when you engage in that, you actually because you enter into a different state of consciousness, yeah. And what I learned the most from that ceremony or that practice is I have realized how much actually my mind is in the way, right? And then when the mind is in the way, you don't know that it is because you're inside of the mind. So for instance, let's say, I mean, one of my experience that I have in doing that kind of stuff is that the entire past and present and future became one and collapsed in front of me. There wasn't any timeline, right? Now, if I say that, most people think that, oh, what is he talking about, right? There's today is Thursday, yesterday was Wednesday, that's past, right? And there's time 10 a.m. So we are operating from that assumption because we have been in that container for so long, right? When we were born, our parents were operating from that state of past, present, future. Now, if we look at society, we have calendar, we have seasons, right? And nothing wrong with it. But I think the point is to make all of us realize that we have been in, I'm just going to use the term matrix, right? We have been in that world of the matrix for the entire time. Then imagine how much the mind is actually being programmed to operate that way. So the practice of engaging in those a little psychedelic stuff, I don't do too much, maybe like once every 6 months, just to kind of, just like Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra says that he travels the place that nobody knows him, so once a year, so he can actually detach himself from his identity. Yeah. I really like that idea because everywhere he goes, people knows him. Then you start getting attached to who he thinks he is based on the perception of the world, right? If you begin writing things like best-selling thing, you start identifying yourself as the best-selling author. You start identifying himself from as a medical doctor or spiritual guru, whatever that he might be identifying. It's okay to identify ourselves with anything, but it's even more okay to begin living knowing that you are none of them. Because ultimately, we're nobody that playing the role of somebody. And the conversation of the language is limited because the moment you start saying nobody, you are somebody who is calling yourself nobody. Yeah. So I like to sometimes puzzle people so you can you can think about all those things. So then the invitation that I have is actually to begin recognizing how much of the rational mind or the assumption that we have is encoded in our mind, and how much that understanding and the shift that we can possibly make enable us to live the life that we desire. Many people like the idea of freedom. Yeah. And freedom is interesting, right? If you are being injured, for you, freedom is to remove that injury, right? If somebody is having a marriage issue, freedom might be to get out of that marriage. If somebody is having a money problem, freedom might be to begin circulating more money. Yeah. And but for me, if I understand that the formation of the physical world is a reflection of our consciousness, the most important freedom that we can practice is freedom from the mind or thought process, yeah, and freedom through the mind. Let's dissect this. What is freedom from the mind? Freedom from the mind is being manifested to a lot of people by desiring vacation. Many people wants to go for a vacation, right? People love vacation. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like the people in the US love vacation more than people in Japan. We have two breaks in Japan. May 3 days and New Year's. But I feel like in this country, United States, I feel like every month there is a holiday. And then when the holiday falls under Monday, we tend to make Friday holiday and then make it like a 4 days thing. People like holiday, right? And why people wants vacation? One, because the existing life is sort of like an overwhelm or stress. Stress is interesting, right? Stressful for many people, and it wants to take a break from it, right? There's a energetic entanglement that's happening in their current way of living and wants to shift location. That's good. But more than that, in my observation, a lot of people want to have vacation in order to take a break from the thinking pattern based on what they're dealing with. Because if you're at the beach with your pina colada, you would not be thinking about your work. You would not be thinking about the thing, right? Or whatever I don't know, if you're a non-drinker, maybe it's a kombucha, right? Anything, right? So, and then it gives you a little bit of a connection with nature and you feel free. But you're feeling free because your location has changed, space changed, but you more than that, you change your thinking pattern, you change your focus, attention, right? So that is freedom from the mind. What meditation allows us to do is to drop ourselves into the present moment and to be able to zoom back to observe the inner dialogue, observe the inner speech. So if we are observing, we're not being absorbed by it. That's why we feel free. But if we're not engaging in the practice of observing, you're more than likely being absorbed by it. Now, when you think negative thoughts or entertain your mind with worries and doubt, your body, the instrument, is going to feel the emotion congruent with what thoughts you thought, right? Then that is a chaotic vibration in your body. It's not flowing. It's not congruent with how the natural world unfolds. Then you feel not good. Feeling not good is an indicator that we have disconnected from the creator. It's that simple, right? Emotion is energy in motion, as you probably have heard that, right? And in emotions are an indicator whether you are allowing God to flow through you or through your choice, you're letting that God to preventing God to flow to and through you and expressing as that. Yeah. And if the term God doesn't resonate with you, it used to not resonate with me. Even 10 years ago, I didn't want to use the term spirituality because I didn't want to misunderstood. I didn't want to misunderstand, no? And God as well, right? It's interesting. I don't attract too many people who are against God. I have been attracting people who have a negative experience around God. But many people who came to my space started to see God differently, maybe because of what I'm saying or how I'm approaching. And it's kind of interesting because I can feel and sense when somebody uses the term God, where they're coming from, the God of their understanding. Either they're programmed by the man-made God, or they're talking about the God that is infinite. I can feel from the way that they speak. Now, and I was resistant to use that term for the longest time because I didn't want to be misunderstood. But I have noticed that I myself started to pay attention to more when somebody's using it. Yeah. The term God drew me when somebody was using it, right? But I could sense where that person is using. When somebody's using that term from the perspective of not man-made God, but the God of the infinite that I understand, it drew me. Then I started to question myself, I'm gonna use it. Right? I'm gonna use I'm gonna use it more because that's the playing with your belief, right? So the more we can access that by choosing the spoken words, choosing the emotional dynamic inside of us, we can actually free ourselves to allow that bigger part of us to flow to and through us. So Freedom from the mind is one of the practices, but freedom through the mind is the choice of the spoken words based on the essence view, based on the essence view. Let's talk about essence view. Yeah. And then sometimes, I give a lot of different information and perspective, and I might go around to talk about the same thing from a different angle. And I'm doing all of this on purpose. So something can land on you to give a little realization on aha moment. Sometimes I get excited about talking more and more, and sometimes I kind of back off and being silent. So you can kind of process and internalize. Yeah. The soul, the dimension of the soul and the essence is in the dimension of the absolute. There's no contrast, there's no opposite, there's no differentiation. Yeah. So in the conscious manifestation space, we use the term expansion, which I love. We want to be in the state of expansion all the time. Yeah. And expansion is a noun, but it's a continuous expansion. So it's a verb. It's you're expanding all the time. Yeah. Because there's no limit. Yeah. Earlier I mentioned about the urge of the soul seeking fuller expression. Yeah. The soul seeks fuller expression, and that expression and expansion is infinite. There's no end to it. So what that means is that the desire that we can fulfill here is also infinite. Yeah. And the knowing that I mentioned a moment ago through the near-death experience, I can't believe that I'm talking about near-death experience in this session, right? Is infinite. Knowing doesn't have any container. It's infinite. Yeah. Soul is not this ball-like things that enters into the body. That's what movie created, right? Soul doesn't have any form or shape. The mind even doesn't have any form. So it's not like the mind lives inside of the body. Consciousness is non-local, a non-located. Sorry, my Spanish just came in. It means and, yeah, non-located, right? So it means that there's no localization. So the mind wants to think that the mind lives inside of the body, soul lives inside of the body because we have this container called body. But soul is not something that's inside of the body because inside indicate localization. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. And then you might ask, where is the soul? Yeah. And my answer is that is a wrong question because there's no localization. There's no such a thing as where. Yeah. When is the soul is the right question. It's always in the now. Yeah. And then we might be thinking, but where is the soul, right? You want to find the soul. It's invisible, so you cannot, first of all, see it, right? And you cannot localize because it's not existing in this space time reality. But it's being embodied. That's why we, using the mind, we can tap into that knowing. And then we can tap into this feeling of, oh, I am called to do, right? I so much love this term calling, right? We should, I'm using this term in a positive way, right? We all should strive for aligning with the calling because we were called, right? We were called in this time in history to cultivate the gift through our stories, going through that divine blueprint journey of the soul, so that we can express whatever the version of us that we're here to express to touch others in the world. Yeah. And I think sometimes people have a challenging time discerning the mind, the voice of the mind and the voice of the soul. Yeah. The voice of the mind tells you not yet. And the voice of the mind is going to tell you the anxiousness in the gut. But the voice of the soul knows it is the gateway to access faith. So you have something that you want, but then if you feel called to, that's coming from that dimension of the soul. And you might not be able to articulate why, where is it coming from, right? So let's say if somebody is engaging in the arts, right? The coaching business, energy healing business, arts business, whatever. Being a mother, I think is an art. Yeah. Being a father is an art, right? Being whatever that is that you're polishing to make it your part of your experience. Yeah. And we want to feel that that is our calling in alignment. And then when somebody says, okay, I'm here, I'm feeling called to do this, right? And then somebody else might ask, why? The best answer to that question is, I do not know. We do not need to know why we are called to do what we are called to do. We are called to do what we are called to do because we are. That's it, right? Because that's like asking, what is the motivation of the seed to become a flower? Why? Why the seed wants to express as a flower? Because it is, right? Why do we want to ask why? Because it's expressing and it's beautiful and it's awesome, right? So the calling that we're here to express is just like that. Blossoming flower. Why do we want to do that? Because we are feeling called to. That's the best answer. Yeah. So um, in this soul purpose group, the main thing that we do is self-realization, right? And self-realization is to realize the self that is in alignment with the essence. And in that journey, we want to understand how much the mind might be actually programmed to want what others want us to want. The mind might be program. I'm wanting to create something based on what I see out there, right? We want to start from the inside, not from the outside. And the number one question that we want to ask is, if I could have anything I wanted, how would I like to be living? We start there, right? So that's the white canvas, and we want to start there. And then to let any of the past, present experience or outside current situation to get in the way. Because the outside current situation is a manifestation of our past inside consciousness, right? So if you let that pass inside consciousness that's manifesting in the outer world currently to dictate what we can picture and feel inside of us, we will be in the vicious cycle of recreating the same thing. So the invitation for all of us is, when we understand that what we are here to do, as far as my interpretation. And then, by the way, I cannot believe that I forgot to say this. You don't need to actually believe in anything that I'm saying in this session. I'm just gonna share my perspective, and you pick and choose what works for you based on the desire that you have in this life. And I'm not here to share this is the right way or this is not the right way. I'm just here to share my point of view based on what works for me, what didn't work for me, and based on how I want to be living this life. I live a life of vacation. When I say that, Tom likes it. Right? I live a life of vacation, right? Because I have curated that kind of life based on how I want to be living. Uh, I'm doing things that I love doing. I'm doing things that I felt called to when I was 17. And it's amazing, right? So you take on whatever that works for you. I'm not expecting 100% of the things that I say to resonate with you. Every spiritual teachers that I had, every mentors that I had, I never resonated 100%. That's why I had different teachers. And then I formulated connecting the dots, what works for me. We're not having a conversation of either you agree with me or not. I don't really care if you disagree with me because you want to form a belief and knowing and understanding based on what you want to create in your life, right? And my hope is that as I present my perspective to help you become aware of your current perception and perspective and to be able to shift if anything is not serving. That's all there is, right? And that is the actual practice. To be able to recognize the perception of us, the glasses that we're wearing, to interpret the world, and to notice, oh, this is happening in my life because I'm assuming this. I'm seeing from this lens, right? And to be able to change it because everything that we experience in our life is a reflection of our perception. Yeah. Experience follows perception. Perception follows our belief. So whatever the belief that we have, we don't have. Belief is what is real for us, what is true for us, right? If you believe and if you feel that you are a powerful and strong and calming person, that is your belief. And then if you see yourself as a powerful, calming person, that becomes the perception of how you see the world. And because you're operating in that energy, what mirrors that perception will become around your life. The outer physical experience is a reflection of our inner belief, and belief is what's true for us, what's naturally feel as a part of our identity and something that is dynamic. We're here to begin expanding our belief to align that belief to what we already know as a deeper knowing, right? So that's the game that we're playing with the mind. And that perspective has served me a lot to detach myself from the ego self, yeah, and to be inspired to elevate myself, inspired by people that I want to select different, wisdom from the way that people lived. And my role and the way that I see myself is to share a perspective. I never like to say I came up with any method. Yeah. Because method kind of creates a little rigidity. I just have a certain perspective that I put together, a viewpoint that works for me, and I'm here to share. And I'm hoping that that can impact to be able to recognize your perspective because everything follows that perception and to be able to change accordingly to meet your desire. Yeah. So essence is who we are. Personality is what we are playing. And personality is being shaped and formed through the programming, through the interaction to the world. And the moment I realized that this spiritual path, everybody, is not really about trying to understand spirituality, but it's more around how the mind is preventing, is in the way to be who we are, everything has changed. And what that means is that when we understand how personality is being formed, personality is your identity, how you see yourself, identifying yourself, yeah, in this world. When we start understanding that, everything has changed. And a major part of my understanding of the formation of the identity comes from the work of Daniel Siegel. He coined interpersonal neurobiology, and we are a relational beings, and we, each one of us, shapes our concept of the self in the mind based on the context and relationship. Yeah. So you become somebody only when somebody else exists. I'm going to slow down because this can puzzle people. Yeah. Your mother became mother because you were born, right? Your mother can never be a mother if you didn't get born, right? So then your concept of the self, the sense of self, how you feel about you in the world, is born through relationship, right? Now, right now, I am creating a identity called facilitator, guide, presenter in this space. You're defining your identity as a receiver, audience, or heroes, right? Whatever the identity that you want to form, right? So every single context that we go, right? Let's say if you go to a coffee shop, you are playing the role of customers, clients, right? Everywhere we go, we become somebody based on the dynamic. Yeah. So when we begin understanding that the sense of self that you see and feel internally is being constructed through the world, and you cannot not be anybody without it, we can step back and begin examining how those are being shaped. And when we are stepping back and being able to see from the outside, anything that's not serving, we can shift it. Anything that's not serving, we can shift it. Now, before I go to the interview with Pia, let me just kind of say one thing. An indicator that we want to notice and recognize as we move along this journey of integration is to recognize whether the action, right, the act that we make, it could be the act of the body or action in our consciousness thinking, the thoughts that I'm thinking or the act that we're making, is that coming from the assumption that I am whole, full, the HOLE whole, or am I thinking this? Am I believing this? Am I doing this because I want to receive something from the world to feel the HOLE whole inside of me? Yeah, that is a very good practice because the goal is to begin programming the view, the eyes, how we see ourselves. Yeah, glasses. Some of you are wearing glasses, right? But the glasses that we're wearing, we want to be able to see ourselves from the lens of the essence. When we see ourselves from the lens of the essence, we are whole, HOLE, whole. There's nothing that we're missing. Like, imagine that you are already whole. Let's take a moment to imagine this. This is going to be a simulation practice, everybody, right? Take a moment to imagine that you're whole, right? And then notice that whenever I invited you to do, what's the inner dialogue that came up? You don't need to say it, but noticing, yeah? You are whole. I am whole. We are whole. The only intention when we think something or act something, if we were whole, is to give it to others, right? Because there's not room for receiving. It's whole, it's full, yeah? But if there's a hole that's being developed inside of us, which we all have at a certain extent based on how we were raised, right? The HOLE hole, the intention of the act in the world becomes, I want to actually receive that because something is missing inside of me. And I want to feel that HOLE, whole, to feel whole. WHOLE. Yeah. So then we want to begin noticing the motivation and intention of every act that we make. And the more we practice, this is a practice, right? And you might not believe, but if we practice wearing the essence view and the lens and the glasses, I keep saying this, but I'm gonna begin creating a product called Essence Glasses very soon, just so you know, so everybody can purchase it, right? Then you can practice wearing that to feel that you're wearing. That's, a little practice, but it works. The more we practice wearing that essence view, your eyes becomes and reflect the essence. And the more you choose to see yourself as the essence, the I am I, becomes the essence. And the more you become the essence, the I becomes the essence, the I merges with the am. That is I am. Yeah. I am is the ultimate affirmation because there's no any identity after. Yeah. But where we begin is to begin training like a dog. Yeah. Training our eyes, how we see ourselves wearing the essence view. And that includes practicing we already are whole. No matter what happened in our past, childhood wounds, anything, injuries, emotional, that is living in the dimension of the story of the mind. Who we are is not in the dimension of the soul. Then our mind needs to be practiced seeing ourselves as already whole. That is what it means by embodying that we are a spiritual being. Okay. That was a lot of information, everybody. Can I have Pia? I'm gonna pin you. I'm gonna pin myself first. Oh, no, I'm gonna actually, sorry. I'm gonna pin you first. Where did you go? Here. And then how do I pin myself? Okay. So I like to sort of have a little bit of conversation so everybody here can hear other stories. And Pia, you started to come into my space by, I think I remember maybe a year and a half ago with the subconscious reprogramming thing. And I think you joined the study group and then you entered the self-realization about a year ago. And then you finished the whole thing and you just renewed the continuation. Um, the reason that I wanted you to come on here to share, Pierre, is you can kind of share a little bit about, where you are and then how things has changed. But more than that, what I would love for you to share to the group is because we can all feel that you are actually fully showing up right now, right? And I'm curious to know what made you to enter to that state and what is happening in your life by doing so. Because I can assume that that energy is creating something in your life right now.
Yeah, it is as simple as changing about how you think about things.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't even recognize me for what I was before.
You forgot.
Um, yeah, and it's not as if I became a new person. I was always here all along. I was just hiding
Mm.
and under a lot of layers. Um, Yeah, I think I joined around February 2024 was when I started checking in on some of your online classes. And then I went from there. Yeah, I like I said, it really is about perception and what you take of it. Um, Just a little background. Had a moment of clarity. I even know the date, April 29th, 2023, that I was not living the life that I thought I was living, and that the life I realized I was living was not one I wanted. And from that moment on, everything changed. Um, Basically, sure survival the first 6 months, getting all the logistics into place to make the change. My focus at that time was to get emotionally and physically healthy. As a confirmed atheist, being spiritual healthy was not anywhere on my radar. Um, and I was, I will tell you that the fact that you didn't use the God word was one of the things that started me looking into your group. I knew that you were inferring it, but you weren't stating it. And I started joining the group. Because, when you work on your body and then you work on your mind, it naturally leads to working into your spirit. It's just where all of this leads. You cannot be physically and emotionally healthy without being spiritually healthy. Taking the things that had happened and re-examining them, not as a victim or as a survivor, but as an opportunity. And at some point, I realized that I had the opportunity to create the life I wanted for me, exactly as I wanted. And that was an enormous gift. And if that was a gift, I had to take everything that brought me to that point as a gift also. And that freed up a lot of emotional baggage. And as you said, as you curate your life and you bring in what you want and you leave what you don't want. I get asked a lot, why do you do that? Or why won't you do that? And I always laugh. I say, this answer is always the same. I will do something because I want to do it. I will not do something because I don't want to do it, because it doesn't fit into my world. So just slowly but surely, and creating what I wanted and being appreciative and grateful and studying and really absorbing the energy of this group, and realizing at one point that I was getting a lot from this group, but I wasn't giving back, the other part of it. And that was the final thing. I think that happened early this year when I realized, you know what, you've gotten a lot, you've had a lot of support. What are you doing? What is your part in this? And so starting to participate and connect more and show up and not hide like I always did. And I think that Jan used in his Enya post was about personality type 9, to disappear or appease. What was the point of that? I started to show up, started to be myself, started not to be afraid of my own strength. And so I wake up every day and it's beyond joy. It's just the sense of everything is exactly the way it should be. And I wake up every day. I'm never in a bad mood. When I look at contrasts, I think the longest it's taken me in the last couple months to turn a contrast around emotionally has been half an hour. So I practice detachment from the contrast. I practice observation. I just have incredible joy and love going on in my life. I am leaving next March to start traveling around the world. That's very important to me. This is something I've always wanted to do. I want to explore. I want to see how other people live. I want to connect. I want to grow. And then I also would like a partner in my life. I know what that partner looks like. And my purpose is to start developing programs for special needs children, recreational and social programs that are not available. Perfect example, my 6-year-old grandson is autistic, and we were looking for a gymnastics program for him. There were no adaptive programs for kids anywhere with closer than 2 hours away. So these are the types of things that I want to do. I will, on the agenda, I will approach the local gymnastics places within 20 to 30 minutes of his home and start saying, have you thought about doing adaptive gymnastics? Contacting the city of Redwood City where he lives, have you thought about developing programs like this? So that is my, journey on the earth, how I practice it. It may evolve, but yeah, everything's kind of firing on all cylinders. Yeah, I just I feel remarkably good. And to everyone on the call, I love you guys all. You do not realize, and that's included with you to you, Yuki, what you have brought into my life. It's been wonderful.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Pia, for sharing. And thank you for your courage and your intention of um, seeing yourself being a part of the group. And this is something, what you just said. I'm going to unpin you so I can see everybody again. Sometimes it takes time for me to find how to unpin. So that is what this work is about. I want to close today. I'm going over a little bit by sharing Neil's quotes that I love. If you have been with me, you have heard me probably 1,000 times. And this is your number 1,001. What we're doing in the Soul Purpose group in the self-realization container and the soulpreneur container that we have has nothing to do with me, but has everything to do with you. And when you begin showing up and begin expressing yourself to touch the world and the others, you will quickly realize that your life has nothing to do with you, but has everything to do with the people who you touch. And when I understood that at the cellular level, it means that my life that I came here has nothing to do with me. But I have cultivated my expression and I am showing up in a way to help everybody notice that it is about them. And your life has nothing to do with you, but through the gift that you cultivate, you actually circulate and extend that to touch other people, to let them see the light in them. And that circulation is what we are here to demonstrate. That is embedded in the intention, cosmic intention. And I have convinced that that is how we are designed to show up. And when we begin showing up that way, so Soul Purpose Group, right? I might have created and launched that last year, August 8th, but it is not really my group. It is our group. It is your group. And the more you show up to with an intention of giving and touching others, which is the law of circulation that we have, one of the principles, something is going to happen in your life to begin moving energy and attracting. And that is probably the number one message that I would like to share today. So you can begin seeing yourself as somebody who can impact somebody else. And the more you cultivate that, the more the God energy of your understanding will start flowing to and through you. And demonstrating that is the awakened self. So thank you, Pia. I hope that message is clear. I'm gonna leave here, everybody. So the number one, one question that I have that I would love for everybody to answer is, to ponder and contemplate, what are the three most impactful things you have experienced that shape your unique personality you live today? Note that your personality is the sense of self you hold that reflects your personal reality. So this comes from how you perceive yourself and the world. So no rush, take your time today, this weekend, no longer than this weekend, because then it will, you start dragging. Please share your takeaway, not for you, but also, just like Pia said, for others, and to use this platform to go deep within you to begin creating some integration. And tomorrow, we'll come back to talk about awakened self. Um, at the end, I'm thinking to open up to Q&A tomorrow. So it might become a little bit longer, but we'll come back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that is it. Thank you, everybody, for participating and joining. And stay with this energy and interact in the group. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.